Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
I attended NDP leader Jagmeet Singh's announcement in Toronto to ask him an important question. But his press secretary told me that it's against their policy to take questions from Rebel News.
We're not going to answer questions for Rebel News.
Why?
Because we don't. That's our policy. We don't answer questions for Rebel News.
As opposed to liberals who trespass me right away?
That is that we need to ask you to leave, sir.
Wow. They said I was welcome to be there. And I wanted to
Welcome
come and
to
ask a
stand here,
question.
but you're not going to ask a question.
I'm welcome to stay here?
Yeah, but you're not going to ask a question.
I still did ask my question and got a response from Jagmeet.
We'll convince them.
What was more interesting than the answer was this RCMP officer telling me this. I was told that I'm welcome to stay here.
Yeah, and you're also told you're not allowed to ask a question.
Is this the new normal? On August 21st, I went to an event in downtown Toronto where NDP's Jagmeet Singh was going to make an announcement. I made my way upstairs with other journalists, but I was told this by Jagmeet's press secretary.
And this is Melanie, who's the press secretary.
Hi there.
I'm Mocha Bezirgan with Rebel News.
With Rebel News?
We're not going to answer questions for Rebel News.
Why?
Because we don't. That's our policy. We don't answer questions for Rebel News.
But I live in the neighborhood and his policies are going to affect me. And I wanted to come and ask a
Welcome to stand here, but you're
question.
not going to ask a question.
I'm welcome to stay here?
Yeah, but you're not going to ask a question.
So I'm not going to be allowed to line up for a question? No. Since I'm not allowed to line up and ask a question, but allowed to be there, I decided to hang around and wait until Jagmeet finished his announcements, took his selfies, and recorded his TikToks. I was wondering what's the meaning of coercion in Mr. Singh's book. And my question was based on this statistic from Statistics Canada, indicating that visible minorities happen to have a much higher hesitancy towards COVID-19 vaccine compared to non-visible minorities. Since none of the provinces in Canada ask people who are getting vaccinated their ethnicity, our only guidance is this statistic that asked Canadians how willing are they to get vaccinated against COVID-19. The data indicates that while 77.7% of whites were very or somewhat willing to get the vaccine, only 56.4% of blacks and 65.6% of Latin Americans were very or somewhat willing to get the vaccine, much lower than whites. Also, what's worth noting is that the South Asian population had a much higher willingness to get vaccinated. As you know, Jagmeet demanded from Justin Trudeau a mandatory vaccination deadline for federal public servants and workers in federally regulated industries by Labor Day, and asked for real deadlines for vaccine passports. But wait a second, who is going to be enforcing the vaccine passport? It's going to be the same police who choked Alex Bowes for not wearing a mask. It's going to be the very institution that has been accused of disproportionately affecting minorities. But that's not going to be the case when the members of that very same institution starts going table to table checking for people's vaccination status, just like in France, right?
Voilà. Avec une pièce d'identité, s'il vous plaît. Merci bien. Bonne journée, messieurs. Je vous remercie.
Isn't this the same Jagmeet that literally a year ago demanded from all parties in the House of Commons to, quote,
That the House recognize that there is systemic racism in the RCMP, as several Indigenous people have died at the hands of the RCMP in recent months.
So what happened? The RCMP has no systemic racism anymore? He himself called the MP who opposed his motion a racist.
It's true. I called him a racist, and I believe that's so.
Excusez,
to
à propos des
apologize
propos
with
qu'il a
respect
dit.
to what he just
Je ne vais
said,
pas.
I will not.
And was removed from the House of Commons for refusing to apologize. Okay, so I attempted to ask him this question, but guess who came to his rescue for my question? Did you see that? A federal police officer ordering me to sit down as if I'm his dog. Mr. Singh, visible minorities have a much lower rate of getting vaccinated. Are you going to convince them or are you going to coerce them? I wasn't expecting that. I felt stressed. I was gambling with an RCMP officer by not obeying his order. Isn't vaccine passport a form of systemic racism?
We'll convince them.
You will convince them? Are you an RCMP officer?
Yes.
Okay, I was told that I'm welcome to stay here.
Yeah. And
Why
you're
did-
you're
why-
also told you're not allowed to ask a question. by the-
That's why I didn't line up. What?
Yeah.
So if
Okay,
they,
we're done here.
Oh, you might be done with me, but I'm not done with you. Can I get your name and badge number, please? Can I get your name and badge number?
It's okay. With a little bit of wind too.
Officer, can I get your name and badge number, please?
Very good, amazing job.
You just blocked me from asking a question. Can I get your name and badge number, please? You have to tell me your name and badge number. You engaged with me, so I'm asking you. Yeah, you told me to sit down. You told me not to ask a question.
Oh no, I was just repeating what person from.
Yeah, but you have the authority of the law, and it's not illegal to ask a question. I just want your name and badge number, please.
My badge number is 41680.
But let's get back to Mr. Singh's answer and examine
We'll
it.
convince them.
Oh, okay. I guess in his book, the word convincing means something else. You tell me if this is about convincing, persuading, or is it about coercing, mandating? To get as many people vaccinated as possible, we need to back up the commitment with actions. We will work with public sector unions to provide more education, remove barriers, and give workers ample opportunity to get a vaccine. For employees who still refuse to be vaccinated without a reason related to health status, we would expect that the collective agreement would be followed. All collective agreements include a process for progressive discipline, up to and including termination. Sorry, but this doesn't sound like convincing people. It sounds like coercing them, which is the opposite of persuasion. Coercion means force. It means compulsion, duress, enforcement, intimidation. It means threats. Get the jab or get fired doesn't fit the definition of persuasion. It fits in the definition of coercion. 2 decades ago, in an attempt to secularize Turkey, various universities established what they called persuasion rooms, where a bureaucrat, accompanied by a psychologist and a cameraman, would try to convince the students who were wearing headscarves to not to wear them. They called them persuasion rooms, but if you refused to remove your headscarf, you would be kicked out of university. These were not persuasion rooms, these were coercion rooms, and by the same logic, get the jab or get fired is not persuasion. Maybe it is in Mr. Singh's book, but not in Oxford's Book of Dictionary. Mocha Bezirgan for Rebel News. Please go to realreporters.ca to cover our operational costs. We don't take your money like the CBC. We have to ask. Now, that's another difference between coercion and persuasion.